Right now we're living in a time where we're the most connected we've ever been technologically in human history. And yet I still find myself feeling more disconnected than I've ever felt. And when I start feeling disconnected, I notice I start to get really depressed. I start getting very anxious. I start getting super lonely. I isolate even more. And typically that leads to far less productivity and far less ability to apply any creative energy to what I do. My daughter asked me, "Mom, why do you have Today Sucks playlist going on?" when she's looking for her next song. And in the moment I'm thinking full panic, because I'm not sure I'm prepared to tell her what I probably should have told her, which apparently I'm going to tell her now, which was because that's the only way I remember and feel fully alive. Those emotions, my ability to connect to all of the humanity that I have, understand the fears, understand the uncertainty, and I know that I'm not alone in it. So 2020 started out with a bang, well, a tornado. And the tornado ripped through our community of East Nashville. It was a pretty devastating experience and terrifying, and my kids were terrified. And that morning after, I said, "Guys, I know you're scared. But the most important thing is you're alive. The most important thing is you're okay. We're going to show up for our community, we're going to help, and we're going to rebuild brick by brick." And we did. And the connection that we all found together as a creative community made us feel truly and fully alive. And we knew we could do anything after that, because what mattered was we were alive and we were together. We could have kind of wallowed in our feelings and listened to the Today Sucks playlist, but we chose to show up with faith and hope. I got a call from one of our artists that week, and the artist said, "Well, the venue's destroyed for where the tour was supposed to start. We worked on this record for a year and a half. There's a tremendous amount of financial and emotional energy that we risked creating this project. Not only was that first tour date canceled, but all of the press, all of the radio, all of the release parties, all of them disappeared. And we had to step back and pivot. And we did. We got through it because we remembered that why we're here and why we do what we do, and the value, the intrinsic value of art and music far outweighs the cost of production, of bringing it to market. And it's important that we show up anyway. And we figured it out. Now, a couple weeks later, it wasn't just one artist panicking and calling me saying, "Steph, what are we gonna do?" Because next came all the March, all the April, and all the May releases, and there was full panic, not just with one team, all teams. All teams panic, and we had to make some decisions. So we could have pivoted, we could have said, "Hey, we can release later, we can not release at all, we can hang tight." But what we chose to do was a completely different approach. And that completely different approach, which could have been just a slight pivot, led us to a place where we remembered why we were there, why we do what we do. To everyone, not just the artists feeling such fear, that fear of uncertainty, that fear of change, We had no idea what was about to happen. But in those moments, the arts, the music, connects us so deeply. It connects all of the disconnectedness. It makes us feel the feelings that are meant for feeling. And that happens inside each one of us. It's almost like artists are cardiac surgeons, and they're holding our hearts in their hands, pumping feeling and life and blood back into our bodies. They're just using different instruments. So, with the changing of in history, which happens all the time, it's instead of doing live concerts, it's going to be live streaming. Instead of doing conversations on a merch table, we're going to have conversations online. Because people need this now more than ever. People are all scared. And it doesn't matter which discipline you're in. I happen to be in the music industry. But my responsibility to all of the artists that we work with, and the network effect of everyone else involved around us, and the power that music can carry within each one of us. We had to keep going. We had to keep providing a space for people to feel all of those things. And we are no stranger in our industry to change. And it's happened from sheet music. And then in the 1890s, we had the first phonograph, and we were able to take music into our homes and experience it whenever we wanted. And then after the phonograph came the flat disc, the 45, the LP, and then the 8-track. And the 8-track was the first time we could put it in our cars. And then came the Walkman with cassette tapes, which I had lots of Walkmans. And they were the best because you could just, put them in your pocket and you could disappear and just go deeply in your head anywhere you went. And then the CD, and from the CD comes the digital downloads. From digital downloads onto streaming, you know the rest. So each one of these times, we're faced with a different format that music comes to us. And despite the vehicle, we still prove that it doesn't matter how it gets to us. It will find us. We're going to listen anyway. And right now, I could talk through all of the consumer trends about how much people are listening to music in 2020, which is great for our business, but also the artists are terrified. They've lost most of their revenue. And I know that this has happened before each time. The way our models have changed from a transactional model of here's my $20, I'll take that CD, to a utility model where we are essentially borrowing music, which is amazing because we can have any song in the history of recorded music at our fingertips, which I find to be the greatest experience ever. And each time we know that people get really scared. And of course they do, because we're talking about their livelihoods. And the artists aren't exactly lifted up financially in our culture. But we have to move forward and show up fully anyway. And here's why, and we're only beginning to understand why. But we're learning how powerful music can be when applied to our recovery time from chemotherapy, how our autistic children are responding to music therapy to show up and participate and function in the world. We're seeing how stroke patients are recovering lost brain function. One song can change a whole lot of things. It can cause a revolution. And I'm not saying that they tell us what to do, but we are only beginning to scratch the surface of the power and understand the magic that happens with music in our brains, in our bodies, in our hearts. It's an endless possibilities. I watched my grandmother with Parkinson's. She had a tremendous tremor, but when she heard a song, it melted away as she tapped in perfect time to a rhythm. Her gait slowed and steadied. She was able to reconnect to herself and her body. And that emotional connection, that is the currency of the music business. And I believe that no matter what industry you're in, showing up fully, tapping into our human emotions, feeling the feelings, all of that being brought forth into any vocation, letting music and artists be our guide, with hope and faith and a little less fear. Thank you.